Hello, and welcome to my very first video vlog. Um, in today's vlog, we are talking about themes in the Old Testament. And before I get to those, there's just a couple questions that I like to ask and get out there. Have you guys ever been in trouble with your parents or with your boss at work? And how many times have they forgiven you before they say enough is enough? When you think about all these times, how did your parents react, or how did your boss react, and how many times did your boss say it's okay before you've potentially lost your job? There's a lot of different literary styles and themes and genres that go throughout the Old Testament. But there are two themes, two areas that really stood out to me throughout the Old Testament. Those two are the theme of fall and redemption. Throughout the Old Testament, we see these different literary styles and the different genres. But these two themes, fall and redemption, remain the same throughout the entire Old Testament. We see them in different places. We see them in poetic. We see them in narrative, but they stay the same. God saw his people fall and turn their back on him, and then when it was his time, he went and redeemed them. So that's what we're going to get into today. So if we look at fall, it starts at the very beginning. And just imagine being one of the first humans, being the first human in the Garden of Eden, living among the animals and having domain over everything that is there. And we see that in Genesis 2. And then we start to think, we as humans need companions, and God sees that we need these companions. So in Genesis 3, God makes us a companion from the rib bone of Adam. But now imagine losing it all by a silly mistake of trusting the serpent in the garden, right? In Genesis 3, and God kicks you out of this amazing garden. This is just one of the examples of fall, and it happened right at the very beginning of creation. Now, if we are looking through at fall in different parts of the Bible, now imagine walking through the desert with God and trying to get to that promised land, and then you never get to see that promised land that you've been walking through the desert this whole time. Because you made the mistake of idolatry and worshiping an idol after God tells you not to, that we see in Exodus 32, where the Israelites have been rescued from Egypt by God's power, and yet they still manage to mess it up. Now, if we look a little bit further in the Old Testament, you're already in the promised land. You are in your own land, in your own kingdom, and all of a sudden you turn away from God again, and you are warned by a prophet of the Lord that says that you should be careful or you're going to get conquered. And they don't listen to that prophet that we see, Jeremiah 26. They don't listen. They want to kill Jeremiah. And then the Babylonians come and they take the land and exile the Israelites out of their own land. But it all could have been avoided if they just wouldn't have fallen. Now, fall, I do believe that is an important theme to have, because it shows, again, we are humans. God created us, but at the same time, we have a need of control, and our control is what leads to the fall in all of the book. Now, if we look at redemption, God's redemption could also be known as God's love, but it's always been there, even in the hard times. If we look back at Genesis chapter 3, he's kicking them out. But in love, and he clothes them, clothe them before they leave the garden. Now, if this is a God that people say is terrible for throwing them out, he wouldn't have clothed them. No, he still loved them, so he clothed them. And after all the fall through Adam and Eve in Genesis 3, we look at Genesis 12, and that is where God calls Abraham to leave his family and go and live in Canaan. And that God is going to make Abraham this great nation with awesome descendants. And God's redemption of his people starts with Abraham. Now, if we're looking at redemption again, there's multiple parts in this, but God's redemption is what helped Moses lead the Israelites out of Egypt. We hear about the plagues, we hear about the locusts, the frogs, the Passover. But God's redemption and love set his people free. In Exodus 13 through 14 in the New Living Translation, it says, "But Moses told the people, 'Don't be afraid, just stand still and watch the Lord rescue you today. The Egyptians that you see today, you will never be seen again. The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm.'" God's love and redemption. These are the same people who turned from him. These are the same descendants from Adam and Eve who sinned, but God is rescuing them in a way that is crazy. Time after time, God's chosen people turn their backs on God. And time after time, God redeems them. That is probably the craziest thing in the entire Old Testament, is time after time, God redeems his people. And he loves them. And he brings them back. If we look at Isaiah 44:22, it states, "I have swept away your sins like a cloud. I have scattered your offenses like the morning mist. Oh, return to me, for I have paid the price to set you free." God is paying for us. The themes of fall and redemption. If we look at fall, this shows that we are human, that we make mistakes, that we fall. But if we look at redemption, that says that we have a God who loves us, and we have a God who's going to do anything and everything that it takes to make sure that his people are with him and are safe. So, God's people have always fallen from the arms of God. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. But God's love is what brought them back. Fall and redemption are two themes that are in the Old Testament that are major parts of the Old Testament storyline. God is always there for us, and we turned our back on him. But yet he was always present. And he always loved us. We've sinned over and over again. Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden by eating that apple after God told her not to. But God was there, and he redeemed us. Over and over again. Fall and redemption. Two themes that might seem bad and good, but without either one of them. You cannot have redemption without the fall. And without fall, the storyline just goes like this.